Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Two promo codes to be aware of. Bitesquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order. The regular season's over, the postseason is over, and now we enter speculation season, which sometimes is the most interesting season for any professional sport, and especially baseball, where we have no idea what free agency will bring across the board or for the Twins. Do want to start talking about the World Series. I thought it was fabulous. I'm guessing Roy agrees. This is Roy Smalley's Chin Music, part of the TalkNorth.com podcast network. Thank you to our sponsors, Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com, Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent who works out of Champlin, and Bitesquad.com. Promo code is TalkNorth. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. We'll have some announcements coming up about the network, and you can always find show releases and live show dates and all that stuff. And thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. I'm just going to open up, Roy. Just tell me what you thought of the World Series.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In a word, just fantastic. I loved every bit of it, and two terrific teams, probably the two best teams in baseball, which is always fun, and they performed like it. And I'd mentioned before that when I was watching the first game, I tweeted out that what a treat I thought we all were in for, because you have two teams that could really swing the bats, just terrific hitters, and they're going up against as good a big league stuff, front to back and in rotations that you're going to see. So it was just going to be a fantastic series, I thought, and it was borne out. It was sensational.
It was. I think you hit on it. It was a great combination. It was great at bats against great pitching, which is that's the coolest part of Major League Baseball, is when you see that matchup and you get to think along with both the pitcher and the hitter. What are they looking for? What are they reacting to? And I thought, the easy second guess coming out of Game 7 was, okay, why did A.J. Hinch, who's a great manager, take out Greinke there and bring in Harris and not Cole? But I thought Harris made a really good pitch, and Kendricks just put an incredible swing on a difficult pitch, and that was the ball game.
That's exactly right, and you don't know, what's going to happen. I mean, if he leaves Greinke in there and Kendrick sees him yet another time, he might have hit a home run to some other part of the field. You just don't know what's going to happen. Certainly, there's a Garrett Cole option, but as AJ said, as the manager said. Harris has been doing it for him all year. He really loved his breaking ball against Howie Kendrick. And we've all seen how you can't throw it too hard for Howie Kendrick. And they, as a manager, he really felt like Harris's breaking ball against Kendrick was the best option he had. So, you got to go. The manager knows his players, and he knows what he's trying to accomplish. And it's easy to go back and say, well, Greinke clearly would have got him out. Well, we don't know that. The third time around, we really don't know that. So I think that there were a lot of good, reasonable options there for A.J. Hinch. He picked the one that he thought had the best chance, and it didn't work. It reminded me very much, and all the talk about this. If you don't mind me telling you a little story.
No, please do.
So back in 1982, I'm gonna give you a couple of Gene Mauch stories here about what really good managers think about. And I think Gene was the best ever in this kind of thing, in preparation and then game management. In '82, he had the Angels. They were playing in Milwaukee in the playoffs to go to the World Series, and they got the bases. Milwaukee got the bases loaded with Cecil Cooper coming up, and Gene had a right-hander on the mound that was a no, I'm sorry. He had Andy Hassler in the left-handed reliever, tough stuff, in the bullpen, ready to pitch to Cecil Cooper if he wanted, and instead he went to a right-hander who also had good stuff, and everybody said, what in the world? Why would he go to the right-hander here? Well, Cooper gets a base hit, a couple runs scored. Milwaukee ends up winning the game, and Gene was excoriated after that for being why in the world? What great managers aren't afraid to go against the book if they think they know their players and they know the matchup. And when I asked Gene about that later on, about not bringing in Hassler, he said this: Andy Hassler's best stuff is below the strike zone. He's got a really strong sinker. He had kind of a Andrew Miller breaking ball. He said it's all of his stuff is not in the strike zone. I had the bases loaded, Cecil Cooper up, and Cecil Cooper was not going to swing, outside the strike zone. And so I really felt, and Hassler's stuff in the strike zone got pretty average pretty quickly. And so he said, I went with the right-handed sinker ball pitcher who had big movement in the strike zone. So think about Scott Erickson kind of sink. And so he said, I felt like we had a better chance of getting a double play ground ball with the right-hander, even though he's right-handed against Cecil Cooper, than we did watching Andy Hassler trying to finesse Cecil Cooper, who wasn't going to swing at anything. And Cooper rolled a ground ball, got the ground ball, but rolled it through the right side, and a couple runs scored, and that was the manager's fault, right? Fast forward to 1986, and Gene's got the Angels in the playoffs again, and they need one more win to go to the World Series. It's against the Red Sox, and you'll remember this very well. Mike Witt, for the right-hander for the Angels, had pitched a phenomenal ball game. I mean, just phenomenal. Yep. And the Angels were ahead, and Witt got in trouble. And I think a walk and a base hit or something. There's runners on first and second. And the catcher for the Red Sox, Rich Gedman, is coming up. Now, Witt had pitched a great ball game, but Gedman had gotten at least 2 hits, if not 3, but it hit 3 rockets. He was the only guy that hit the ball hard off of Witt at all. And this was the 4th time he was going to see him, and he had hit 3 rockets. So Gedman's coming up, and Gene has got Chuck Finley in the bullpen, a left-hander, to pitch to Gedman if you wanted him to. And Finley had been phenomenal all year, and no, left-handers just didn't hit anything against Finley. And oh, by the way, Gedman was hit like 090 against left-handers that year. So Gene goes to the left-hander, and this is not brilliant strategy necessarily. I mean, given all those things, and even just if nobody knew all those other factors, left on left, it's by the book. You just do that, right? But that wasn't the reason why. The only reason. I mean, Gedman had just hit 3 rockets off of Witt, and you got a left-hander out in the bullpen that's been lights out against a left-hand hitter against everybody, and he had a left-hand hitter hitting 091 against left-handers. So I mean, he goes to Finley, and Finley's first pitch hits Gedman in the shoulder. Bases loaded, and the roof kind of fell in. They actually ended up going. That was the game. They ended up going extra innings, and Dave Henderson hit a home run to win that game for him late. So and now Gene gets excoriated, and how could you possibly take Witt out, right? So it reminded me of how could A.J. Hinch take out Greinke. Managers are seeing things that other people don't see in their own players and have plans against, the strengths or weaknesses against opposing players. And they have the good managers like Gene and like A.J. Hinch have the courage to make the call, make the decision they think is right at the time. And it's moving very fast, and they got to decide. And all this stuff in good managers goes through their brain. They're prepared. They make the call that they think is right. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
The other interesting aspect of this is a lot of people, I thought Greinke was wearing out there, and I thought the Nationals were getting to him. I thought it was the right time to make a move. And the idea that Jarrett Cole would come in, it's a really romantic, cool sounding thing. You bring in your best pitcher in Game 7. Who could argue with that? But number one, Garrett Cole's never pitched in relief. You don't know how he's going to do in that situation. If it takes him 2 batters to get warmed up, the game might be over. And the other factor there is A.J. Hinch met with Garrett Cole. Here's Garrett Cole entering an offseason where he might get a $300 million contract, and he's going to pitch on short rest. And they agreed. They decided, let's have a game plan here, so you don't get abused, so I don't make something impulsive move. And what they agreed to was they wouldn't bring Cole in the middle of an inning, and they wouldn't bring Cole in if the Astros were trailing. They'd only bring him in as almost a closer type situation.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
there you go.
There you go. I mean, it just, and I know everybody likes the idea of selling out for your team, but you're dealing with human being. You're dealing with everything as a manager. You're dealing with human beings, context, their futures, their health, and so I don't think it was the wrong move, and I think there were a lot of reasons that it was maybe his only move.
It may have been his only move. I think he really, he obviously really believed that at that particular time, Harris's breaking ball against Howie Kendrick was better than leaving Greinke in, who, you're right, looked like he was tiring a bit. And with this information about Garrett Cole, and the conversation, it was probably his only move. But I think he liked it. I think he liked the move. And how good a hitter is Howie Kendrick? I mean, I think that people should focus on how good Howie Kendrick is at the plate rather than anything else. And as someone tweeted to me, pointed out, I mean, I talked months ago, and it might have been when the Washington was here with Minnesota. I just said, Howie Kendrick is a professional hitter. I mean, the guy can just flat hit. And he proved it on the biggest stage there was, and he was the one that he won. The A.J. Hinch didn't lose by putting in the wrong guy. Howie Kendrick won.
Agreed. Let's get some Twins topics. We do want to thank Berry Coffee. BerryCoffee.com. I just called to re-up my usual order from them. Bought my coffee machine from Berry Coffee, and I also get my whole bean coffee that goes into the grinder in my coffee machine, which makes life really easy. I'm not a big gadgets person. I'm not like somebody who likes fiddling. I like things to be simple. And all I have to do is press a button every morning. I get really good coffee. And a reminder who you'd be buying from. You wouldn't be buying from some conglomeration. You wouldn't be buying from some massive organization that really doesn't need you, doesn't really care about you. You're dealing with a local business. Berry Coffee is a Minneapolis, Minnesota business. They get locally roasted coffee beans. They have their own roaster. If you buy from them, you're supporting the local economy. You're supporting community groups. You're supporting an organization that does things like, that supplying coffee to police officers when they have to work events. You create more local jobs here. You put your taxes to good use. You encourage local prosperity. And as they point out on the Berry Coffee website, local businesses and town centers require comparatively little infrastructure investment and make more efficient use of public services as compared to nationally owned stores entering the community. This is, support local businesses whenever you can. Listen to local podcasts, support your local businesses, Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com. It's not always logical to look at a postseason or a World Series and say, okay, what did this teach us about the local team? Because sometimes it's apples and oranges. Sometimes teams win with an unconventional plan. But what's interesting here is you could point at the Nationals and say they won because they spent a lot of money on Max Scherzer and Patrick Corbin in free agency, or you could look at them and say they won because they didn't pay Bryce Harper and they used their money spread over other people, and they went with more of a. And I heard something interesting from some Washington Post reporters and writers this week, which was Bryce Harper he's not a bad teammate. He's not a bad guy to have around, but any clubhouse he walks into is his clubhouse, and he's a type A personality. He's a brand. And so even if doesn't intend to be divisive, it's just not the same thing as when you have a clubhouse full of guys who can all kind of act like they're on the same level. I thought that was really interesting.
That is very interesting to me. And, in a situation like that, it really is, it's up to the player to mitigate that, even though it's not his fault, even though it's, you can say, the guy ought to be able to do whatever he wants in terms of, creating that brand and being that star.